is up everybody and welcome back. I know it's been a really long time since I've made a video. I think it's been like almost 2 months maybe since I've sat down and recorded something. I think I've taken like long breaks before, but this one has felt like especially long just because I've been doing like a lot in between. It feels very nice to be back and recording again. My hair has grown out like crazy, so just ignore that for the video. Today I'm going to be talking about a life update slash something that I've been kind of wanting to talk about for a while, and that is that I have officially dropped out of university. Originally, I was not going to talk about this because I wanted to be like a private thing that I figured out on my own, but I've been outed by multiple sources, aka my family and some people that I know. It definitely was a big decision for me to make, especially since school is the only thing that I've known my whole life, but I definitely feel like I've made the right choice. I don't know if this is a topic that you might care to listen to, but hopefully if there's someone out there who's going through the same thing, you can kind of find some comfort in my experience and my story as well. I'm kind of still in the midst of it, like I just made the decision like not too long ago, so it still is like fresh. This is a video that I've been trying to record for like maybe like a month now because honestly it is very personal to me, and I think once I get into it, it might be a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know, today was the day I was kind of feeling it, so. I'm gonna start off by telling you a little bit of a backstory just to give you some context as to what kind of led me to dropping out. So growing up, I was always very studious. I think it was my escape for things because I never really had something growing up that I was really passionate about. I almost felt like I had a lack of identity. I had multiple things I was interested in, but it was very scattered and all over the place. You know, I never really felt like I belonged in one particular group or a particular activity that made me very happy. And so because of that, I feel like I latched onto school to sort of give me that validation. I think typical to many kids who have had this issue, I made school my identity for like a very long time. I always really tried hard in every single subject, even if I didn't really like it that much. And honestly, it did work for a while. I exceeded in all the subjects that I took. I got straight A's for most of my life. And because of that, it seemed very obvious that my next choice would be to go to university, get a degree, and get a job that is good and decent and something that I was proud of. But I think in some ways I always kind of knew that something was kind of wrong. I always asked myself, I was like, do I like this because I'm doing well in it, or am I doing well in it because I like it? And I really could never really distinguish that. And so that was my like plan A. I would go to school, I would go to university, and I would get maybe my master's and then get a really cool job. And I just thought it would be so cool and it would make me sound so smart if I could do all these things. And thinking about this future career, I was very excited. I was excited for the accomplishments and the title and everything like that when I actually got there. But a big part of actually getting there is this whole space in between that I have to actually get there, you know? And like many people who have decided to switch their career paths, I've decided that I didn't really like it. I felt like I was chasing more the title than the actual career. And honestly, it was kind of sad to admit, but it definitely was the truth, and I really had to be honest with myself. I feel like a lot of my videos is just me being like, Michelle, be honest with yourself, because I am delusional sometimes. I think I'm very overly optimistic. Optimism isn't bad, but obviously sometimes I do need to be realistic about things and life, or else I will get smacked over the head. Anyways, I just became so miserable for a while because everything that I've ever known was in school and doing school and pursuing this one thing that had to do with school. And honestly, I went to university, I wasn't passionate about it, my grades were slipping, and I just felt like everything that I worked towards for my whole life had just been ripped away from me. It sounds dramatic, but honestly, I really was extremely invested. I would spend hours even after school just studying and just working towards this one thing that I thought I wanted, and it ended up not being what I wanted in the end, and that's kind of devastating. And so I was in school, and then I changed my mind, and I feel like I didn't really give myself the proper time to grieve a future for myself that I always saw. And so I felt like I was like grasping at straws to just look for something else to do. I didn't really get to sit down and properly think about what it is that I actually want for the rest of my life. I think a lot of times when people change their career paths, we miss the fact that letting go of what you thought you wanted to do do, especially when your whole life kind of revolved around it, unfortunately. It's sad and it's kind of confusing and it feels kind of lonely because you belong somewhere for a while and then you just didn't. Honestly, the way that I went about my path in general was just flawed from the start. I never should have put everything into school. I never should have made school and academics the focal point of my life, and I'm glad that I figured that out now rather than later. So for a few semesters of university, I took like literally every single subject under the sun. Subjects I've never taken before, because all that I really knew when I entered university was mainly maths and sciences. And honestly, at first it felt like I was just kind of like wasting my time doing these random courses that I didn't know what the hell I was doing it for. And by the end of it, I really still didn't have that much of an answer. I narrowed it down a bit and I know what I don't want to do, but there was not really a clear answer as to what I really wanted to do. And so over this past summer, I really was dreading going back to school. Like, I'm doing these courses to get somewhere, obviously, but I'm not really even enjoying it. I was about to just take another year and be like, okay, maybe I'll try something else and I'll see if by the end of that I'll have somewhat of a better answer. I've kind of realized that another year at school is really not going to help me right now. If anything, I'm just going to be wasting a lot more money. Sorry, I'm gonna turn this light on. So I was sitting with this for quite some time. I really didn't know a life outside of not actively pursuing a degree. It's always been something that I was working towards. I really was just confused and lost. I have taken a gap year before, but that's because I also deferred my acceptance, so I was gonna go to school anyways after that. But this time feels a little bit different because I am putting it on pause and I don't really know what I'm gonna do next.
Okay, so I knew I should have written a script for this video because I forgot to talk about a point that I wanted to mention. I wanted to briefly talk about like my views on university and degrees because my opinions about it have been like pretty strong and kind of solid for a while, and even if I do decide to pursue a degree, I don't think my views will change that much. Maybe I'm just gonna say what everybody else already knows, but like a degree does not guarantee you success, especially these days now that there's so many things that you can do on the side that can get you the jobs that you want. For example, actually going out and getting experience in the fields that you want to work in. I think in the end that's always going to be so much more useful than just the theoretical stuff and having a piece of paper that says, yeah, they can do it. Obviously, unless you're doing like a professional career, like being a doctor or lawyer or anything like that. This is all very obvious stuff, but for a while I really was just so against university for a bit, and I really don't know what that phase was. It was like a weird angsty thing where I was just like, okay, I'm gonna drop out, fuck school, I don't need a degree to succeed, I'm going to freaking pull a Steve Jobs. Obviously, I'm not Steve Jobs. I was joking, but I kind of like wasn't joking. Maybe I kind of spoke it into existence. Sorry, I'm rambling. It's literally 5 a.m. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I want to make this point. I really don't believe that going to university and getting a degree is a guaranteed way to be successful, and I think I'll always stand by that. You can't just like slap a formula onto everybody and just have the same result every single time. But I think a lot of that anger was just stemming from like my own confusion, because a lot of times degrees aren't useless. But I think if you really look into your career and think about the best way to go about it, going to university or not going to university can be equally as beneficial to you.
I just want to make this very clear. I am not against post-secondary. I do believe in education, but I also believe in timing. And I feel like with the timing of my life right now, it just does not make sense for me to go to school. Literally everything in my body was telling me that if I went back to school this year, it would have been a mistake. And I'm very glad that I listened to myself. And I really just couldn't justify going back to school if I wasn't 100% passionate about what I was pursuing. And I hear people say this all the time. The degree that they get has nothing to do with what field they get into. And I really hate how normalized that is, which is why I think it's so important to actually enjoy what you're doing, what you're learning about. Because these days people are getting degrees left and right, but I think the big difference is in the people who are actually passionate about what they do. I feel like for all of my life, this has been a conflict that has constantly been at the forefront of my brain. It's the question of, what am I really doing in terms of career and life path? I feel like for a very long time, I will not know what is right. I don't know what the right decision will be or what the right path will be, but every year I feel myself getting like a little bit closer, and I think at this point in my life, I am doing what's best for me right now. And that is taking time to actually explore the things that I do like. I think in school, even though I did excel, I've always felt like a little bit out of place. I didn't really have any direction. I remember sitting and just thinking about like my life and my future, which I do way too much of. I think about what would have happened if I pursued my plan A. I think about the life where I just go to school, I get my degree and I get a decent job, and then I get married, and then I have a family and kids, and I feel like that can't be my story. I want so much more for myself, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that path. Obviously, I've wanted it for so long, but just knowing more about myself and knowing what I know about me now, I don't think I'll ever be content with just that. I want something different, and I don't want to just do what everybody else is doing because it feels safe and it feels comfortable. The weird thing about this whole thing is that even after high school, I kind of took a year off, and I was also debating if I should go to school or just wait it out. During that year, I just felt so out of place, and so to feel less out of place, I went back to school. I go back to school and I felt even worse. I felt like I wasn't even being authentic to myself and what I really wanted. I was just doing what I knew and what I always knew. The thing about what I always knew was that it stemmed all the way back to when I was like maybe 8 years old. I'm not the same person that I was when I was 8. What I want when I was like 8 or 12 or any of those times in between is very different from what I want right now. And it just doesn't make sense for me to hold on to a goal that I made so long ago just because I put so much into it already. And I think that was also another big thing that made it so hard for me to really let go, was because I already put so much into it, so much thought, so much effort, so much time. It feels like if I just let it go, it would be a waste. If I know that I'm not doing something that I like and that I'm passionate about, there's absolutely no point in me just continuing to do it. And that is where I am right now. This past September, I have decided to unenroll, and I do feel the pressure of it. All of my friends are graduating this spring, and I've done 4 years of what seems like nothing, but I know it was not nothing because I did learn a lot. But I think that's just my old mindset saying like, you did nothing in terms of what your old goal was, and that's true. But I didn't do nothing in terms of where I want to be at this point in my life. I think taking a break and really considering my options is the best decision that I could have made for myself at this time, and I don't regret it at all. Am I terrified for what the future holds? Most definitely. It feels like I've just been pushed out into open waters, but I'm also very, very excited to see where it takes me. I definitely will explore my options, and I'm just open to doing things even outside of university. All those things that the prestigious me would have never seen myself doing. I am 100% ready and open and excited for those opportunities. I think that mindset that I had of just going to university has really kept me in a box. I remember before my grandpa passed away, he always said to me, because he knew that I always loved school, and although I know that I shouldn't have put everything into school, I did really enjoy it still, and I love to learn. And my grandpa knew this. And I remember he would always say to me, "让好有一gang." Even though he was super tired, he didn't say much nearing the end of his life, but that's the one thing that he did say to me. I believe it is keep trying your best in school. And honestly, that's something that has always stuck with me, which is why I've always really was adamant on finishing university and getting my degree. For myself and my family, it's a personal achievement that is really important to me. And honestly, getting a degree for me is not just getting a degree. I think it's really important and actually very meaningful. And because of that, I want to make sure that when I do pursue it, it will be something that I am extremely passionate about, something that I really love learning about, and something that I will be so proud of to have. It's crazy because it feels like the easiest, hardest decision of my life. On one hand, I feel like I'm letting go of a lot, but at the same time, it feels like a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders. I hope that if you are going through the same thing, that you find some sort of comfort in this. Everybody's timing is different. Please do not be discouraged by other people's stories, other people's timelines, other people's accomplishments. Your story is not their story, and that is a good thing. I think it's only in our nature to compare ourselves, especially when they are our age or younger, doing all these things that we wish we were doing. But I really believe that everything happens for a reason, and everyone is on their own path and their own journey for a reason. Because who's to say that if you were in somebody else's shoes that you'd be happier? Because a couple years ago, if I was where I thought I wanted to be, I know that I would not be happy. Obviously, there are times where I'm at complete peace with the fact that I have dropped out, but other times there is this wave of like, oh my god, I just dropped out, what am I doing with my life? I think the number one thing that really calms me down when I get that feeling is just to be present and think about what makes the most sense for me in my life at this particular moment right now. Honestly, that just gives me a lot more peace and comfort in my decision and snaps me back to like the reality of things, and that is life is a series of decisions, but also you need to time those decisions very carefully. So that is where I'm at, and that's where I've been for the past couple weeks, months. So for any of you asking what I study in school, I don't. It is to be discussed. Not right now though. And so that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. Again, I apologize for the long break. I really miss you guys. I definitely have a lighter schedule now, so things will be back in full swing soon. I hope everyone has had an amazing 2022, and I hope you have an even better 2023. But anyways, have a great day, and I will see you in 2023.